Okay, perfect. All right. Hi, everyone. We are doing this webinar just slightly different. We are going to be recording it and uploading it on the website. Nobody is live on with us. So if while you're watching this, you have any questions, please jot them down and feel free to shoot them over to me. Again, my email is jordan@mtfccla.org. Tatum is co-hosting with me today, as well as Justin Brown from Sysco. I am going to share my screen, give just a few really quick, reminders, and then let him visit with y'all for a bit. And Tatum, sir, of course, he gets yappy right now. And then, yeah, if you guys have any questions, this is specifically for management. We do have our culinary competition webinar that is already up on our website. And if you're having a hard time finding any of these webinars, make sure you're visiting the mtfccla.org website. And at the top right corner, you will see a page that just says ProStart, and you can click on that, and everything you need is right there. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen real quick. Okay, here we go. Cool. So I'm just going to very quickly give a couple of reminders when it comes to registration, because registration is open and we already have a couple of you who have started filling out paperwork. So that is exciting. As a reminder, this year we've got something new that is added to registration, and that is completing and submitting your work-based hours log. This is not something that this is not something that we expect your students to have a certain number of hours for, but every student that is competing does need to submit one. Just any experience working in the service and hospitality industry is going to count towards that. One of the other things you need to make sure you do is to fill out that actual competition registration form. That is due on February 11th, which is when all of your materials are due as well. That form is on the website. And then so are our waivers that all of our students need to sign as well. So all of that can be found on our website. So if you have any questions, let me know. Yeah, I think that that's pretty much it in terms of my quick housekeeping reminders. And then we're going to just kind of focus on management tonight. So if you have not already picked your management and or your culinary teams, I would like to just direct you back over to watch our previous video from last week with Greg Beachy from Zwilling, because we went into detail a little bit there on some team building and team choosing. So yeah, I am going to stop sharing my screen. I'm going to invite Justin to share his screen, and let him chat with y'all for a bit. I am going to mute myself so that Tate doesn't take over again. And then if at any point, Justin, you need anything or if I need to hop in, I will unmute myself and yeah, we'll get through this. So perfect.
Sounds
Thank you,
good.
Justin.
You got it. Well, thanks for watching the video today, I guess. Just kind of go over a high level of the ProStart Management competition, kind of some best plays, best practices for our playbook. Kind of the three things that I want to go over are what the judges score. It's really important to know that. How to build a compliant proposal, what to really look out for that, and then making sure that we're practicing how to go through that. So talking about how to win is having a score strategy, making sure that you put in the efforts where the points are going to be. Obviously, there's different weighting in the scoring and making sure that we're hitting those as we go through and want to execute those at a real high level. Next is building compliant materials. You really don't want to lose points for missing little things. Like the design of the booth is a 10 by 10. So setups, you get 5 minutes. Your posters are going to do your heavy lifting through all of that. Next, you want to make sure you have 7 minutes of conversation to be set up and 3 minutes for questions. That's the idea behind that is every 7 minutes you'll be in there. It's 5 minutes, I guess I'd say, about for presentation, 3 to 5, and then you're going to have the rest of the time filled out. 7 minutes, rotate, new judge comes in. The next part is training for the scenarios. You want to go through the training and get lots of practice so you can be real confident as you go through the presentation. So here's our points and kind of where it's rated on there. Your check-in is 5 points. Concept is 3 points. Your menu and costing, 35 points. Marketing plan is 40 points. Your operations plan is 30 points. Critical thinking is 55 points. And your recipe and price sheet are 5 points. So when you're looking at this, this comes back to knowing where to make sure you're putting in the time. Obviously, the critical thinking. This is where all of our students will be asked questions by the judge to see if they understand, they're confident in their answers, and kind of really know where to go. It is the most critical part of that because it's the time that they put in truly knowing what they're going through. Next, you have that marketing plan. How are you going to get people in the seats? Understanding that, making sure you pay attention to the rules of that. If you focus on our scoring and where it is and where the points are, that's where you can make sure you maximize your points. So over prepare as many scenarios as you can go through. That is going to help all the students be confident in asking some of those questions. Making your ROI airtight. So the money that you spend in marketing, how many people is that going to bring you to your seats? That's an important number to know and understand confidently. Using your posters to support the Q&A. When asked questions, pointing to where it is on the poster, whether it's a menu idea, whether it's the look of the restaurant, right? Whatever is kind of you're highlighting in there, making sure you're using that. And that's what you want to avoid. It's easy to avoid those point losses. So bring the right stuff. 8 identical proposals. Down below there, you can see here's the fine print, right? Typed 12-point, 1-inch margins, tabs separated in order. You got to have one manila folder of all your costing. One menu, one recipe with the costing to it, and one price sheet, right? Labeled by the state and region on there. It's not the school name. Now you have your 2 posters, 24 by 36. 2 separate posters. One is going to be your menu and your floor plan, and number 2 is going to be your marketing tactics. Pretty important to have those lined up exactly the way they say. Again, losing points on those little details. Day of the booth, you want 3 copies in your booth. Recommended to have water, and note cards are okay, but no props. Uniform, professional, obviously. Business attire, no concept logos on the shirt, right? Arrive ready at the check-in because little mistakes can cause that. Double check everything. Always go through that, making sure you have all the right stuff when you get there. So kind of working backwards on here is what I always like to say. January and February, that's going to be your building your concept, doing your scenarios. On February 11th, you need to submit your PDF form, the proposal, into FCCLA, right? And on the 12th is the competition. So making sure you're working back from there. You know the day's the 12th. You know February 11th's in there. When do you got practice to get through there and take care of those things? So report to your booth 5 minutes early. Your setup, you get 5 minutes to set up. Like I said, 7 minutes rotation. There's a 3-minute break between for the judges, and 10-minute feedback session after the presentation is the ask for us to be able to give some feedback to all the students on where they're going. It's definitely something we're working on initiating this year and giving some face-to-face feedback with the team on that.
Hey, and Justin,
Right.
real quick,
Yeah.
the competition is March 19th. I read that and I looked at it and I was like, yep. And then when you were just saying it, I realized that it is actually March 19th
So
on
as
this
I
one.
put
Yep,
there,
right
April
here.
12th, that is March 19th.
Yes. And all
Good
good. I
deal.
will make sure we send out, everybody knows when the competition is. So we should be good
Thank you for
to go.
double checking that for
I'm
us.
so sorry.
Oh, don't be. So back to the tabs here. This is all part of your plan that you're sending in is making sure you got a judge-friendly structure. You want it to be easy to go through there. So you want to keep each sections to the page minimum. It's all in the rule book there. Lead every section with a 1 to 2 sentence takeaway. Use consistent headers and visuals, but they've got to stay flat. Make your concept fit the ProStartville. Everything is off of that with the chosen scenario. Create an org chart that matches your operating hours. That seems to be missed quite often. Here's your checklist. Concept, this is what you want to know, right? Who is it for? And why it wins. 2-page max. Your floor plan. The flow must make sense, front of the house and back of the house. The SWOT analysis, it should be real and not a generic SWOT. It should be for your concept, right? Menu, exactly 12 items with pricing, and the marketing, 2 tactics with the budget. And because I've reiterated a couple of times, the ROI, make sure we're airtight on that and you know where you're headed in that direction. So, menus that score, exactly 12 items. That's what's asked. Absolutely no alcohol beverages on there. That will lose you points. Cost plus price for one item. So a full recipe with the cost analysis in there. Obviously, the kind of average on that is your 33% food cost, and you want to show the math in there. Pricing in the quick math, menu price. So it's portion cost divided by that 0.33, then round to the realistic price. Photos included, 1 to 4 items you actually cooked. Don't use stock images. Cook the item, put them in there. Be a fun project also. And then costing tips. You can add a 1% to the recipe total for salt and pepper, ketchup, napkin, and then fry oil, 2%. That is an ingredient in your food. So adding all of that to show all of that, which a lot of people miss those little details. All right. So marketing that convinces. So you have to have 2 tactics in there. You can submit 2 of them. At least one of them has to be traditional. No alcohol-related promotions. And then samples must fit on the 8.5 by 11 page. And if it's social, you can only choose one. It's Instagram or Facebook is the platform for social media. You have an ROI on there. Again, we're going to go over that again because it's obviously something that's missed there. The return minus the investment divided by the estimate times 100 will give you your ROI. Tell you exactly what your cost to do that. You want to use your local rate source. Got some social media budgets down here below. And then you want to sow the assumptions, right? Clicks or visits, how many tickets it gets, what's the profit turns into there. And keep your numbers conservative on that. It is a pretty clear red flag when the ROI is significantly off. It's definitely one of those things that come through. Radio is one of those that are harder to do in a lot of metropolitan areas. Radio doesn't give you a return on investment. In a lot of our rural areas that we do, a lot of people listen to the radio and it does get some return on investment. So that's something to think about is as we're going to national, what that looks like if you want to do the ROI on a radio. So kind of a lot of those things to think about when you're coming full circle. So you have to design a 7-minute experience you have for each judge on each one of those criteria they're going through. It is not a lot of time to get through there. So you have a 10 by 10 booth, 1 table, and 2 easels. Only one of the proposal copies allowed in the booth. You got no props, no giveaways, business cards, or handouts. That's something that you have to make sure you're doing, right? You don't want to shake hands or distribute material. Sometimes you guys do that. It does work that way, but it takes up a lot of time. And each team member should bring water, and they're allowed to have note cards to help them kind of get through that process, but nothing else in that process. So kind of what a 7-minute concept will look like is you got 45 seconds there for your hook, your concept, the one-liner. How are you grabbing attention to really pull them in there? The next part of it is you're really going to have your core content. This is where you're going to use your posters. You're going to make sure you get those point across that you want to get to. Then you're going to give some time for some question and answers. And then at that end, you want a closing, something to leave the judges with, really to impact them on where you're going. Maybe reiterating questions they had about your concept and how that works to help you be successful, win, or get your people that you're reaching out to. But making sure you have that because you get 7 minutes, the whistle blows, they've got to move over, get 3 minutes to rate, and move on to the next one. There's no way to get there. So practicing that significantly will help you be on time, present by the time that's done, and also not have dead time. You don't want to present too fast, and you can't present too long. So it's really finding that sweet spot in there. You want to sound like you know what you're doing. I think that goes to everything that we do. Sounding like the operators, knowing what's in there, having confidence, speak clearly, right? Have specifics that you know you want to talk about. The transition with time, that's also very important. When you're going through that, you have several people talking, all right, I'd like to hand this off to so-and-so. They're going to talk about this. That way there's no bumbling between. Use posters, right? You can use those real clearly. And the slides aren't slides, they're the posters. So, but you only get posters at your booth, but you want to make sure reference those, have the information that's on there. You've got your answering your Q&As. Start with a one sentence answer. Be as clear and concise as you can because you are running out of time and you want to address any questions that come through. Use your poster again to show the proof. Talk about where it's at in the proposal that the judges have. This tab will show you that this is the ROI on this item, right? Close with an operational impact. So it's really leading to that closing about everything that they had brought through, sealing that in the end. And then professional presence. Stand tall, slow down. We all talk a little faster when we get nervous going through there. Speak clearly, take the time, treat the judges like an investor. It's a great practice to have. If you're going to ask these judges to invest in this job or this restaurant that you want to do, if you treat it like that, what information are they going to want to know? How are you going to be able to convey them that they should come up with their hard-earned money and kind of give that up? That's the idea behind it. It gives a different mindset. So scenario readiness here. So categories that you might think of, safety and sanitation that you might get in your questions, right? Customer service. What does that look like? How do you deal with an upset customer? Social media. How are you going to respond to customers on social media? How do you touch the most amount of people? How do you keep that going? Human resources and staffing. That's always an issue when you're talking about how to keep people on, how to deal with some issues that come up, right? Menu development and design, your marketing plan, and your concept knowledge. Those are all things that judges could ask and kind of get through, and it'd give you an opportunity to kind of go through those as you're practicing and asking the students to kind of think about that as it comes down the line. Fun idea is a 60 seconds response template. So asking questions and giving 60 seconds to reply, right? Immediate action. So what do we right now to protect the guest? Communicate. Who will we tell what we're going to say? Obviously, tone matters in that, right? Fixing the root cause. So processing, training, changing to prevent anything from happening again, right? This is what we're going to do to solve this so it doesn't happen again. And then tying back to your concept. So how it supports your brand all the way from the beginning, right? We're going to fix this so it doesn't happen again because we want to have a fun environment that brings families into this restaurant. Something along those lines where you're tying it all back. Give 60 seconds, speed answers, help go through that process so when the questions come, they're ready for those answers. So, talked about this a little bit. Avoid those easy point losses. Late or incorrect proposal submissions, not in a uniform, posters out of spec, concepts not in ProStartville, menu items are being wrong, right? You only have 12 of those, recipes, costing, and pricing. That's all wrong, or having alcohol on the menu. A final 48-hour checklist. Count everything. 8 proposals, 2 posters. You got your manila folder, 3 proposals for the booth. Having some extras possibly so that you haven't to go through the night before. Final count list before you go. Right? You want your print. Make sure it's in 12 font. You got the margins right. Your table, your tabs are in place. It's stapled. It's single-sided. All those things that you're going through. Your poster test, right? Make sure you can read it from 6 feet. Judges are going to be close to that, but you want to make sure that it's able to be read and not having to scrint or come in so the answers are answered for you and you have less of those Q&As coming through. 10 scenarios, right? Go through all those that we talked about. I think I did 8 on the last one. Do a drill and go through. Again, pack water. You can have no kid cards and have a pen with you in case you need to be writing down something. Don't get disqualified, right? Don't miss any easy points here because it's usually pretty close. It's within a point or two between first, second, and third. So every little mistake that happens can really make a difference on whether you're winning the competition or watching from the sidelines. So hopefully that gets you ready, right? That's kind of the idea behind that. One of my mantras is for quick 3 points, right, is comply. You've got to have that put there. You want to clarify so that you have that and then connect back to your concept. That's the whole part of these questions in the Q&A that's coming through, because that's going to solve a lot of the questions that our judges have when they bring it down. Comply to what's there, right? Get them an answer very clearly and connect it back to your concept. All righty. Well, I hope that helped everybody. Jordan, you got anything to add?
Thank you so much. Honestly, I don't have much to add other than I think that management in some ways like is in some ways it's more approachable sometimes than the intense timeliness of the culinary. But on the flip side, you have to be so much more detail oriented and you have to be so
Mm-hmm.
much more prepared. And there's typically fewer opportunities to practice, right? Because you're maybe not getting the variety of judges in your practice sessions that you would be at competition. And so I think in a lot of ways it's like I don't know, you can prepare a ton, but once you're there, uh, you just kind of gotta like
Ready
take a
or
breath.
not, it's there. Yeah, everything you
Right,
practice
right,
is nothing that they ask, right? It's all
right.
you learn to pivot and change, and that's why it helps to practice, because you
Exactly.
learn that's not the questions from the first one or the next one, and it gives you the ability to kind of stay on your toes, seat of your
A hundred
pants. Yeah.
percent. Yeah. Yeah. And I really appreciate that you gave some like tangible tips on how you can practice because I think sometimes, with management, you're like, well, how do we practice this other than presenting our concept and like just knowing our stuff? But um, working against a clock and being concise is a skill, and you
Mhm.
can improve on that skill if you practice. So, yeah, no, this was fantastic. Thank you very, very much for this.
Absolutely.
Um, yeah, and yeah, I don't really think I have anything else to add, but if anybody watching has questions, reach out to me. And if you have a question specific for Justin, I'll connect you guys. I am volunteering that. So thank you,
I'll take
Justin.
it. I'm in. You know I'm in. Yeah.
So yeah, perfect. Cool. Well, I'm gonna hit stop recording and yeah, hopefully this was helpful to everybody.
Thank you.